name is Ali Abunimah. I'm very happy to be talking to BACA, Students United for Middle Eastern Justice at Rutgers University. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you in person today, but I'm really looking forward to coming to visit Rutgers, and I hope we can arrange that sometime in the coming months. For many years, people have said that the chances of seeing Palestine free from occupation, from apartheid, from the systematic discrimination and human rights abuses that have been committed by Israel is a distant dream, and that Palestinians had better make do with whatever they can get, whatever they can negotiate through a peace process that has lasted now for almost a generation and has gotten us nowhere. But I think that the recent events we've seen across the Arab world, and even here in this country, show us that a different kind of future is possible. For the past few years, Palestinians have been saying that they want to see the kind of global solidarity to end Israeli apartheid, to end occupation, to restore the human rights of Palestinian refugees, to end discrimination against Palestinian citizens in Israel, the kind of solidarity that helped end those sorts of abuses when they were committed in apartheid South Africa in the 1980s. Of course, I'm talking about the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement. This has been growing since 2005, when almost 200 Palestinian civil society organizations signed the Palestinian call for BDS. But it spread across the world to college campuses, churches, labor unions, all sorts of civic and non-governmental organizations. And just a few years ago, people said, well, this would never have a chance of restoring or let's say changing the balance of power that has kept Palestinians suffering for so long. But what we see now is that the pro-Israeli anti-Palestinian organizations are really frightened of this movement, and they're trying to counter it. But I think it ties into a bigger global movement that we see now, and a dichotomy we see between the official peace process, what was done by men in suits, having peace conferences, diplomatic meetings, issuing statements, and they would always say, we're the only game in town. And anything else that was going on outside the official peace process didn't matter, it didn't count, it wouldn't make a difference. But what we see now is that the official peace process, sponsored by the United States, is dead, and it's not coming back. And it's dead for a number of reasons. One, they were talking to the wrong people, and two, they were not aiming for what Palestinians want to see: real justice, real end to occupation, real end to discrimination, and equality for all the people who inhabit historic Palestine. And so it's dead. And we've seen the BDS movement. We've seen popular struggle within Palestine gaining ground. And who has it been led by? It's been led by people at the grassroots. It's been led by young people. And now we see a parallel with what's happening across the Arab world, where regimes that have been in place for many decades, fully supported by the United States, are crumbling. And they're crumbling not before superior weapons, not before more repressive security apparatuses deployed by their opponents, but people power, particularly young people, students who have decided it's time for a change. And we see the superpowers, the United States, the other regional regimes, scrambling to know what to do. What's changed is that the people setting the agenda have changed. It's now young people, grassroots movements setting the agenda and saying that we're the ones who will decide what the goals are. And the goals are true freedom, liberation, equality. And all of this is within reach. I think when it comes to Palestine, it's also within reach. We've already laid the ground through a broad grassroots movement that brings together people of almost every background. The goals are clear: ending the occupation that began in 1967, ending all forms of racial discrimination, discriminatory laws and practices against Palestinian citizens of Israel, and respecting and promoting and implementing the rights of Palestinian refugees who today are not allowed to return home for the sole reason that they're not Jewish. A discriminatory practice that would be called apartheid if it were practiced against people because, say, they had the wrong skin color. You don't have to agree with me that a one-state solution is the best solution. You just have to agree that, or let's say we would all seek to agree that occupation is wrong. Discrimination against people because of their ethnicity is wrong. And keeping people out of their homeland just because they don't fit racial or religious criteria that you have arbitrarily picked is wrong. Those, I think, are messages that are universal. The struggle for Palestinian rights is a universal one, and I think it is strongest and most inspiring when it is tied to the rights to other struggles for liberation that we see around the world. Here in this country, we still see a great deal of racism. We see a lot of discrimination and hostility towards Muslims, towards immigrants, to people because of their sexuality. We see a great deal of violence against women in this country. And these are all things that we have to work against and do so together. I hope that I'll have a chance to come and speak to you in person. In the meantime, thank you for listening to these few words that I have, and I wish you all the best with your program this evening.